what is happening when a car siphons gasoline out of another car? Is that a blood transfusion?
Yes, that's a blood transfusion. That's not cannibalism. If I drink your blood, it's not cannibalism. I'm a vampire, or I'm doing a really lo-fi blood transfusion.
Ask about Illuminati, since the charting of Peters. Is it Disney mind control? Is this MK Ultra Deluxe? Occult Disney, we go from real to real. Occult Disney, Bohemian Grove and no more real. Occult Disney, ask about Illuminati. Occult Disney, we teach occult to everybody. Occult Disney, the wish upon a star. Occult Disney, you know not to travel far. Oh, Occult Disney, the new brand Pinocchio. Yeah, yeah. Occult Disney, it's a boss over your Occult Disney, please enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Occult Disney podcast, where we all evolve into cars in the far-flung future and find the secrets of far-flung spycraft. This is Matt here. It's Paranoid American over there. How is it?
I've been drinking all in all.
All in all, everything you need to grease your wheels, right?
Yes. I mean, that's new sponsor of the show. All in all, you can do anything you want with it.
Well, it's like unobtainium or something, which is like in 8 different movies, and you can do whatever you want with it. So
I can't take any movie seriously that has unobtainium in it,
unless it's there on purpose. Like if it's a Zoolander movie and they're looking for unobtainium, it's kind of okay now, you know. But
yeah, I guess I'm specifically talking about Avatar.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the unobtainium movies. I guess they call it something slightly different. The Marvel movies, is it? Because I guess that's adamantium now. I don't know. The cars aren't
the stuff that makes up Wolverines.
You say it again.
I think it's adamantium. I might be totally wrong.
Now we have to find out who's right on this one, because I've been thinking it was adamantium for like my entire life.
You might be right.
But until the X-Men animated series, I also thought it was Magneto, not Magneto.
Adamantium is a fictional metal alloy in the Marvel universe. Adamantium.
Okay, I've read the Chris Claremont run of X-Men like at least 4 times. So I was like, I got to be right on that, you know. I think I never watched the 90s series because even in the 90s I'd already read that run. Actually, 4 times is probably lowballing it. I'm forgetting how many times I read that as a kid. Let's go 10 times for the Chris Claremont run of X-Men.
I mean, I prefer the good old adamantium before they got all fancy and made it adamantium.
Okay, that's Mitch Hedberg territory. Is like, is a hippopotamus, you know, really a hippopotamus, or just a very cool hippopotamus, you know? Stealing someone else's jokes there, that's fine. Cars 2. Now, you liked Cars 1 quite well, right? How'd you like Cars 2?
I did. I liked Cars 1 a lot. I felt that it was way deeper than it had any business being. Cars 2, I kind of feel the opposite about in a bunch of ways. It seems like this, and I guess I want to know some of the production background that you usually give us on these. But this one felt like Disney now owns this really cool shiny toy, and they're just going to do like stupid Disney stuff with it and make it look good. But it kind of lost everything that made Cars 1 good, and it didn't meet almost any of my expectation, although it did a great job of building the characters up. But I almost like, as I'm watching this, it's like, oh, they did that so that they can make this into a video game, not because it was a good story-wise, but that they wanted to just improve on some of the core characters and introduce a few more ones along with like toys and ancillary products.
Yeah, because when I was an hour 47, I was like, that's not the worst, but it is nice when it's an hour 30.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this was like an hour and a half in, I did look at the progress bars, like, how is this not over yet? Like, oh, there's another 20 minutes. It could have ended 10 minutes before I thought to look at that. So this could have been perfect if it came in like an hour and 15. But whenever it goes to almost 2 hours long, I feel myself getting extra critical if there's not something like major being revealed.
Yeah, and it was weird because it was Cars, the first Cars. I'm pretty much, I think I'm mostly agree with critical mass on that movie. Where like you really liked it, which is great, but and most kids in America liked it because it's one of Disney's biggest properties, right? So and this Cars 2 is also actually Cars 2 is the biggest hit of the Cars movies. This one made the most money. So the juggernaut was in place and functioning fine. But yeah, the first one, it's good, but I do agree with the general idea that it's like a shade under the Pixar movies up to that point, except for maybe A Bug's Life. I now looking back, I'm like, it's better than A Bug's Life easily.
Well, commercially, it's hard to look at the commercial numbers from Cars 2 and Cars 1 and compare them and be like, oh, Cars 2 did better, so it is better. Because maybe that just represents how many people liked Cars 1 that were able to show up for Cars 2 versus the ones that went back and watched it like 3 or 4 times because it was so good. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm losing touch here. And also, there's a huge difference between these two movies. In Cars 1, American culture and folklore was sort of the star of the show, and it was the first time in I think all of Disney history that we got a uniquely American sort of bumpkin backstory. In this movie, Americans are the butt of a joke again. Like the Americans just look bad because they're traveling internationally and they're putting up against Asians and Europeans. And the running joke is just that Americans have no class and are not as funny or as good as any of the other characters. At least that's kind of like the overarching theme that I picked up on.
Yeah, but even as someone living in Japan for so long, I found myself being slightly condescending in my mind yesterday. I was walking. There's a lot more foreign tourists these days in Japan. I'm walking down the street and there's a gaggle of Americans coming up, all built like tanks and wearing floppy T-shirts, and I'm wearing my club. I'm like, I look cool in my suit, I look classier. I was like, yeah. So I felt, but yeah, and there's occasional weird, behavior here and there, of course, but there is a weird push and pull in Japan for sure with tourists. There were convenience stores last year, like putting big fences behind their buildings because people were showing up and not buying things and taking pictures of Mount Fuji because that convenience store happened to have a really good view of Mount Fuji. So they put up a fence so people couldn't take pictures of Mount Fuji.
View of Mount Fuji.
They're like, there's too many dirty Americans are showing up and not buying anything and littering and all that, So
and this is on theme for the movie, because if you haven't seen Cars 2, it for the most part takes place in Tokyo, right?
Well, I'd say more Europe, but maybe it's because I was excited to see the Tokyo stuff. I felt like they got out of Tokyo real quickly,
I don't know if that felt like a good first half of the movie was all in Tokyo.
Yeah, okay, we got the car sumo. Maybe. Well, actually, maybe some of it is because I see sumo and I see sumo on TV every Sunday, so I just kind of forgot it was there until I looked at my notes that there's car sumo.
We see Mater dressed up like a geisha, which
right.
Appropriation or cultural flattening, whatever you want to call that. And then
the wasabi ice. It was a pile of wasabi, right?
It was a sushi counter, and he heard it was an open bar, so he goes to order some food, and he thinks that it's pistachio ice cream, and then orders an entire thing of it, and then eats it all, and then realizes the pistachio ice cream has turned, as he called it.
Oh, right, okay. Because I had like a third thing that confused myself, because nearby where I live, somewhat nearby, there's a wasabi farm it's like a big tourist attraction place too, and they serve wasabi curry, which is really good, and they have wasabi ice cream, so I've had wasabi ice cream, so I was like, sure, wasabi ice cream, that's not bad.
I'm sure it's not just pure wasabi in a cup, though.
No, it's wasabi leaf flavored, but they did put like a dab of wasabi on it, so it did have some spice there. And I've won a wasabi eating contest in my life. And there's the gyoza game too, the pot sticker game. Have you heard of this?
No.
Russian roulette with gyoza. Five, like say you have six, five have pork inside, one of them has wasabi inside, and everyone picks one and eats it. There's a sushi version where or whatever, I'm just using six as a normal number, but five have a normal amount of wasabi and one has a ton. And I played that once and I had the one with a ton, but I didn't notice. So I kind of,
Is the game that you have to not make a reaction and everyone has to guess, or what?
That might be it. It was like quite a while ago when I played this game, but yeah, it might be something like that. But yeah, I won because I actually didn't know that I had the bunk one. I was like, okay, sure.
Tater definitely loses in this one because he immediately makes himself look like a typical American tourist idiot. And then there's even a line in here because the premise of the movie, I guess, would help to put out here is that it's essentially a James Bond movie, and we see that they're trying to uncover some nefarious plot that has something to do with alternative fuel. And Tater kind of gets mixed up in the middle of all this, where they think that he's part of these American spies because he's just wrong place at the wrong time. So in one of these scenes, he's trying to kind of like keep a low profile, or at least they're trying to make sure he keeps low profile, but everything that he does in this movie makes him stand out. And at one point, the British MI6 agent is consulting with her handler, and the handler asks her, have you met the American? Or she's like, I don't think that this is him. He said, well, is he American? And then it shows Mater kind of like farting and burping, and she says, extremely. And I just thought, I kind of like that, though. I kind of like he's not only American, he's extremely American because of how crass and embarrassing he is in public.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that was me being like a sports car yesterday, going past the bumpkin folk, right?
Crop dusting them.
I'm crop dusting them. That's right. No, that's for planes. That's what we're getting to soon.
That's right.
You're asked about production, and especially if people are listening to us in order. We have gone slightly out of order because of our guest schedule. This is one movie before Brave, which we just covered, right? So,
don't ask too many questions. There's a method to the madness.
But yeah, this is the last movie with their old software, because I think when we did Brave, all of us noticed, oh, the animation has kicked up a notch. So this is the end of sort of the old animation. I wonder if they're kind of, like closing down the shop for this, right? A little bit of senioritis, maybe.
A little. And also, again, it feels like it departs so much of the storytelling from Cars 1. Like this movie is just a James Bond movie with Cars characters playing some of the parts. And then they go back to the same location that we saw in Cars 1. But outside of that, it feels like it's its own movie, because there was no part of Cars 1 that had some of this same style humor in it.
Well, one of the issues here, I guess, is actors dying. George Ramph, who was in tons of Pixar movies up until Cars, died in an automobile in accident in 2005. He was Red. So Red's in the movie but doesn't talk. I mean, he wasn't the biggest character in the original, but that's one character down. Paul Newman died, right? So they were just like, oh, he's dead, right? They intimate in the movie that Doc Hudson's dead. George Carlin died in 2008, and they got someone else to voice him, which, I don't know, that seems a little rude if you're deferring to the other two guys, especially being a big George Carlin fan. So you got that going on. That's one thing. You also wasn't
Tommy Chong in the first one?
Was he? I think George Carlin...
Was Carlin the one that played the hippie van?
Yeah, Carlin was a hippie, because Tommy Chong's done that too, right? Just off the top of my head, when we get to Zootopia, he's there. So as the yoga llama or whatever, the llama who's a llama.
Yeah, no, I could definitely tell immediately that it was not the same hippie van, even though I forgot it was George Carlin and was the original.
Yeah, but no, you're thinking back. I see easily where you would have either of those guys in as your hippie voice, right? So anyway, you got these dead folks, and then the production, of course, as seems true for every 21st century Disney movie, hands changed during development, right? This has sort of a Star Trek the Motion Picture story, not production thing. If you remember Star Trek the Motion Picture, Captain Kirk comes back after several years behind, or Admiral Kirk comes back after several years behind a desk job to be like, piss off, young captain. This is my ship again, right? If you've seen the movie, that's kind of what happened here, because John Lasseter did co-direct the first one. By the time this goes into production, he's in charge of Disney, basically, right? But at some point, he decides, no, I want to co-direct Cars 2. And at another point, decides, I want to be the sole director of Cars 2. To the point where this was his main focus for about a year. So he did put a lot of effort into it, just giving notes, on things like Winnie the Pooh and Brave and things, right? Like he was just like kind of like giving notes for those. Apparently, Steve Jobs gave him an iPad, and he found the ability to spend an hour on an iPad sending everyone notes very, very useful or something. He's like, I can do on an iPad what would take me 3 hours of office time, which is a kind of a very, I guess, 2010 thing to say.
It also just makes me think that you're very slow using office tools.
That might also be the case. But yeah, he did make this his sole focus, saying things in the production like, we don't make a sequel at Pixar unless the new idea is at least as good or better than the first movie, which this feels like a failure on that part. I don't know. What do you think?
But then again, if the money talks, then
money did talk.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with the money coming in, because what the hell do I know? But again, I can't imagine that anyone would have went to see Cars 2 if Cars 1 sucked. So maybe the real test is how well did Cars 3 do in relation to Cars 2, but I don't know. Maybe also at that point, it's like the sunken cost fallacy. It's like, well, I've seen the first two. I guess I got to see the third one.
200 budget for this, which is whack. But then 560 for the box office. Let's see. Actually, I am very curious how 3 did, because they haven't made one since. Although they, there might be one coming out next week for all I know. Cars 3, 175 million, 383, so a whole lot less than 2.
Yeah, so I mean, in my own head, I almost would say that the success of Cars 3 has more to do with how good Cars 2 was, and then the same thing with Cars 2 and Cars 1.
Yeah. Now I am really curious how Toy Story 4 did. Which we'll get to eventually, and I'll be in a year. I'll be reading on the podcast again. Oh God, holy crap! Budget $200 million for Toy Story 4. It's a billionaire. It made $1 billion. So yeah,
okay, that's why pretty good.
That's why 5 is coming out sooner rather than later, I guess.
How did the gay Buzz Lightyear one come out?
That one really flopped, from what I remember. Everyone hated that movie. Toy Story franchise. Does that count as the Toy Story franchise?
Absolutely.
Sure. No, I know it does. No, I'm talking about Wiki. Does it count as the Toy Story franchise? Toy Story series. It must. Films. Okay, there we go. It's listed as audio. Oh crap! I got the soundtrack. This is what you do when you end up searching on live. Well, we're not live, but here we go. Okay, I'm just very curious about Lightyear. 200 million again. 226 in the box office. So once you consider all of marketing, which was massive for that movie, they got a lump of coal in their stocking for the summer because it was a summer movie.
They should have doubled down. They should have just made all the characters gay.
Yeah, sure, why not? Was Love Year? I don't know. What the French title for that movie is really entertaining, by the way. For the Lightyear movie. Now I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's really entertaining. And now I'm getting way too far off track. I think I have to drive back over to Radiator Springs, or I'm going to drive myself insane, right? I'm looking at too many things and talking at the same time. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about how it starts off where they meet up in Tokyo, and there's going to be this big Grand Prix, and the Grand Prix is being thrown by this All in All, which is a new, I guess, like green fuel. It actually, maybe I wasn't paying attention close enough, but it almost seemed like they were implying at first that there were electric cars that they were going to be racing, but they weren't really electric. They were just using this All in All alternative fuel. And apparently any engine can just use this alternative fuel without any sort of like adaptation or upgrades, which is kind of weird. Like that doesn't exist in the real world.
Right. Yeah. That's Eddie Izzard doing that. I'm just going over the voice guys. John Turturro, gotta love the Turt. He is the Italian racing rival, so that's kind of cool. And My Cocaine is the British spy car. I guess after a Gold Member where he's playing Austin Powers' dad, they're like, let's have him do that one more time.
And funny you should mention that, because this whole beginning scene where Mater becomes a spy, that almost felt like the opening scene in Austin Powers 2 that takes place in a bathroom.
Oh yeah,
Right?
okay.
Who does number 2 work for?
Yeah. That's in the first one with Tom Arnold. Yes. Yeah. You tell that turd who's boss. Yeah, I remember that. No, I remember. I very specifically remember seeing the first Austin Powers movie because we took a college day to. Oh no, I was there legitimately. We had an AP test in the morning, so they let us out of school for the afternoon. Then I saw Austin Powers. Yeah, so I was there legitimately. Good for me, but it was school hours.
Its movies are better when you watch them when you're supposed to be at school.
They kind of are. The most fun is I had a macroeconomics class in university, but I also had a radio shift during that class. So I just never went to the class, and I was on the radio instead of in the class. So I didn't. I mean, it was a really big class. It was like a 300 people auditorium class. But I was just like, yeah. If anyone ever accused me of skipping class, there's quite a bit of evidence since I'm DJing as class was going on. When we had the finals, I actually got it wrong because the website said 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., but it was actually 8 a.m. And he let me. I showed him the mistake on the website, and he let me take the final exam. But he must have known this guy's not been in class for some time.
Who are you?
Who are you? Well, it's a 300-person class. You can't tell anyway. He said all the notes were on the internet. This was like 2000 or something. So notes on the internet, that's great. I don't even take any notes, It's the first time a professor said notes are on the internet. So I was like, I don't know. Why do I even go to class? I'll be on the radio instead.
Well, I mean, it's paying out, though, because clearly you did well in macroeconomics.
That's right. I got a C. That's good enough.
That's like suicide terror. No,
it might have been microeconomics. I don't even remember.
Some kind of economics.
I've been watching Severance. Also, it's John Turturro. And they have the macro department or whatever. So macro data department. So I have macro on the mind. Why have micro on the mind when you have macro on the mind? But yeah, look at early on we got the Jaguars coming through, but I'm guitar obsessed. So I'm thinking about, guitars when I hear Jaguars or see Jaguars. Am I seeing Jaguars here? I'm not that big a car guy.
Oh, in the movie, what the hell?
Oh yeah, sorry. I switched the movie we're actually talking about. I tangented into the main topic.
You're talking is Michael Caine is the Jaguar, right? Like the spy.
Yeah. I suck with car models. It just says British spy car on Wiki, so I think he's a Jaguar.
Yeah, I think he was a Jaguar, and then there is all of the normal sort of crew, except you also have a Project Paperclip German guy who's.
I wrote Nazi Volkswagen, which I guess Volkswagen is inherently Nazi anyway.
Well, his name was Zundap, and Zundap was the name of a remote detonation company that then started making motorcycles.
All right. Founding of Volkswagen. Okay, 1937. Just making sure I was correct by accusing Volkswagen of being a Nazi company before I, because if it said 1918, I'd have to at least reconsider. But it said 1937. I'm like, okay, by 37, you're starting a company in Germany.
Yeah, and it was the People's Wagon, right? The folk.
That's correct. By the German Labor Party. That's right. No, I'm just making sure I'm not besmirching the name of Volkswagen. Just making sure I'm saying what's correct because it's been a while
besmirching, but it's accurate besmirching.
I drove a new Beetle around for 8 years. So yeah.
No, a Tesla is the new Beetle.
I guess so. Yeah. Actually, it was great. My aunt bought one because she liked one, and she got a stick shift, and she didn't like that, so she got herself a turbo, and then just gave me the stick shift. And I had just gotten into a 5-car pileup near not Scranton, Stamford, Connecticut. So my Mitsubishi Mirage had just got a hole in the radiator, so it just worked out well. See, I can talk about cars.
Is there a Cars 4 or are we at Cars 3?
We're just at Cars 3. I can look at the Cars franchise.
Maybe Cars 4 will have a Cybertruck.
Third film Cars 3. It doesn't look like and there's a possible fourth film if there's a good story to tell. Well, they made two anyway.
Didn't stop them.
There are more Cars things brewing. I can't say much more yet. Cars has got a life that will keep going. I am working on some real fun projects right now that you will see in a couple of years. It takes us a while to make them. Okay, that means nobody's doing anything.
Also, that sounds like something Timothy McVeigh would have told somebody.
Yeah, really.
I'm working on some really fun projects. I can't tell you about it now.
I'm gonna blow up the Cars universe. Yeah. Anyway, my guess is they're just that sounds like corporate boilerplate, and nothing is happening with Cars because 3 wasn't that successful. And that's the thing with something like Cars, like a Toy Story. I think if you're 5 years old when Toy Story comes out, and now, like we said on Toy Story 3, and now Andy's going to college and you're 17, you're still on board. If you were obsessed with Lightning McQueen when you were 5, which to be fair, kids still are, like half of the boys' water bottles in my little kid classes have Lightning McQueen on them, or he's somewhere on their clothing or on their socks or whatever. But if you saw Cars when you were 5 years old, Cars 2 is coming out in 5 years later, and now you're 10. I don't think you're that interested in Cars 2. Am I wrong?
Yeah, well, and also Toy Story has the advantage of there's baby toys in Toy Story, and then there's older kid toys, and like even Sid is sort of like an older badass Bart Simpson, and he's playing with like erector set style toys. So you've got a large gamut. When you're talking about the Cars movie, everything is the same kind of like age range, and once you age out of Matchbox Cars, then I think you're probably aged out of like Cars in general, because there's no room for anything else in the Cars universe.
Yeah, to really be into the Cars universe, and that's not taking away from the first movie, you know, being a pretty good movie, great for you. But yeah, where was I going with that? Oh yes, to be into the Cars universe, to be a Cars fan, you need to think Lightning McQueen is cool, which is easy when you're 5, and you need to think Mater is funny, which is easy when you're 5, and when you're 10 and above, Lightning McQueen is not that cool, and Mater, don't think Mater's that funny. This one has like 40% more Mater, and that's freaking annoying.
Well, he's kind of the main character of the movie, and as I'm watching this, I'm thinking if you really liked Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy, then you probably do like Mater a whole lot.
Well, yeah, they're doubling down on Larry the Cable Guy here, aren't they? So, even on Wiki, I don't remember what the casting order is in the movie, but here they are listing Larry the Cable Guy's Mater as the top of the voice cast, and Owen Wilson as Lightning McQueen is number 2. So Mater is now the star of Cars, which I don't want Mater to be. Mater's good in like small doses, if at all. You know, he's a Jar Jar that people like more. You know,
I see that. Yeah, he is a Jar Jar people like more.
Hey, you're talking about doubling down on Lightyear. Do that with Binks. Make a Binks movie, and all the Gungans are super non-binary. That would be a fun movie.
We get the impression that there's girl cars and boy cars, but none of that seems like it would make any biological difference in the car universe.
Okay, because we got tailpipes, but what else do we got going on?
But everyone's got tailpipes.
Tailpipes and head ornaments?
And also, I guess it is a good time to point out that in the beginning of this movie, where it starts in a bathroom, they have that classic sort of joke where like an American discovers a Japanese toilet for the first time, and it's got like a bidet, and it has music and flashing lights and all sorts of like technology, but it sprays his undercarriage, I think. So now the tailpipe analogy doesn't make as much sense, because what is it spray, like, you know, like, because if it were an actual bidet, it would be spraying up his tailpipe, but since it's Cars universe, it sprays his undercarriage.
I've lived in Japan for almost 20 years now, and I have never mustered up the courage to press that button. I've had people who visited the bidet buttons. I've had people who visited for the week, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's the best thing ever. Why don't we have them in America?" But I've just never had the guts to press that button. I do like the heated seats at work. They're usually heated, and every once in a while, they're in winter. You sit there and like, "Oh my god," because you're used to them being heated, and someone has turned it off. So.
I feel like I wouldn't be scared of the button, but in a public restroom, I don't know, man. Like I don't know what fell onto that nozzle like right before you press it. Like it's gonna be
Good. Yeah, sometimes a nozzle is notable. It's a notable nozzle. So yeah, you get. Usually, you don't. There's the flush is still separate. There's still just a normal flush. So the buttons are all just superfluous. And they're in Japanese, right? So you don't necessarily know what you're pressing on many.
It makes it look like a video game in this movie.
Yeah. and they didn't go for the traditional ones. That would have really flipped them out. You know, it's the traditional ones, right?
What is that where like an old lady comes out and spits?
Yeah, she hawk tooth on that thing. For a 1 year out of date joke. I feel like I was just saying yesterday how like that kind of thing's funny because it's just slightly out of date. So people just look at you slightly askew, like, what?
He just got out of jail. You have to forgive him. He's catching up.
Yeah, it's the squatting toilets. So
AKA hole in the ground.
Yeah, but they're still made of porcelain, so they're technically still toilets. So yes, of course, 100 years ago they were just holes in the ground, but now they are toilets. But still, those are. After almost 20 years in Japan, I'm still. There's plenty of Japanese who don't want to use those too now. So,
well, let me ask you, what comes out when a car goes to the bathroom?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna answer what comes out.
Like, what are they doing?
Crappy smelling oil that smells like poo.
But so like, what they're going in and they're getting an oil change?
Used oil. Well, they don't change. They're evolved people, right? They're not quite cars, right? They have eyes, so they take in
and mouths,
gas
and tongues, and apparently digestive systems. Because in this movie too, it shows them drinking, and
right.
And I'm guessing that they're not drinking gasoline. Maybe it's like fuel additive.
But they're fed completely intravenously, aren't they, for fuel? Because they still have gas pumps, right?
Correct. And if you want to keep extending this, you see that not only do they have mouths and teeth and tongues, but Mater has some big old chompers. So what did his incisors develop in, response to? Are they actually masticating things? Like, could you get eaten by a car?
Are they drinking just for fun?
I think they are. No, they absolutely are. They're drinking to get drunk in this situation.
In a G-rated Disney movie. Actually, so there was not a big controversy, but there was slight controversy over this one getting a G. It's kind of like Pixar movies get Gs. Or maybe Brave didn't, but yeah, we were like, it's a little too violent. There's drinking and stuff, and maybe it shouldn't be a G. Ratings are weird, though.
I mean, one of my notes was that this movie, maybe franchise as a whole, is at a disadvantage because they have a big action scene where they're doing, I guess, what we'll call karate, because they call it karate, but like the cars are jumping up in the air and whipping around and hitting each other, and they've got guns. They're pulling out like AKs and shooting at each other, and missiles are coming out, but no one ever gets hurt. There's no oil or transmission fluid that ever gets spilled. There's no windshields that get cracked. Almost nothing bad happens to these cars on screen. You might see off screen there's an explosion and then the wheels or the tires will like float up in the water or something. But they've kind of put themselves in this corner where they've got these inanimate objects, which are normally like every kid going to watch this movie knows what two cars wrecking into each other look like. That's like kids' favorite thing to do with toy cars, is just smash them into each other constantly, right? Car wrecks and car crashes. But you don't get any of that in this movie, because if they show a car actually getting like severely damaged, now we're just watching it suffer on screen, and it's kind of not a Disney thing, let alone a G-rated Disney movie thing. So even in the height of their action sequences, everything falls so flat because they can't show any pain or suffering.
If they want to be really intense, they could have recreated the torture scene from Casino Royale with Mater or something.
Or just Casino, where they put the guy's head in a vice and his eyeball pops out.
Yeah, an R-rated Cars. Well, hey, you don't have to even wait for the copyright. You don't have to give Cars 70 years. You can make a animated horror movie with cars now. You can Maximum Overdrive. Take that IP, make an animated Maximum Overdrive.
I mean, technically, it's already a Cars movie.
Yeah. It's fit into that is where the
you never see
evolution begins.
the inside, right, of the semi.
That's the beginning of the takeover. Yes, got it. Christine's doing the same thing on the other side of the country at the same time. It works out for everyone. Well, not for people. It works out for cars. Sorry, you're asking about cars and sex earlier. My notes are: Cars can bang. Mater wants to bang McQueen. McQueen wanted to bang the lady car, but now he's stuck with Mater. Okay, so Mater is definitely not a good wingman. That's for sure.
No, Mater almost seems like a creeper. He seems like a Jeeper creeper kind of guy.
I agreed with the leaving Mater at home thing personally. When it becomes like, no, now you're going to be on all of my tours. Now you don't want that. Did you ever see the Mr. Show sketch with the Metallica band that has to go visit the kid in the hospital that tried to commit suicide after listening to their song "Try Suicide"?
No, I mean, I'm sure I've seen it, but this is like 90s now.
Yeah, it's the 90s, but yeah, it's so you can come, it's like they're doing the Metallica thing. I was like, oh yeah, you can join on our tours, and then finally they pull down his blanket because he wants to be cool, and it's just like he's got this little shriveled body going, yay, like it's a puppet or whatever. So that's bringing Mater on tour with you, So they make the song "Try Again" and then dedicate it to him because now he's dead.
That's one of the main motifs of this whole movie. I had. So first of all, no Disney proxy, right?
No,
was there
none
a Disney
at all.
Proxy? Not at all, right?
Used one in this one.
They abandoned the entire formula, and I almost feel like I missed it. Like I wanted a Disney proxy in here somewhere.
Brave didn't have much of one because the parents are still there. You could say the bear, but it's not much. Toy Story 3 had it had something in equal strength to Disney proxy, but didn't really have the traditional one. Maybe that's Pixar's thing. We do something different. It hit well in Toy Story 3. It kind of hit in Brave, and this is just a weird jumbled mess where nothing.
Well, because again, this one's like a James Bond movie, or it's the Man Who Knew Too Little, which I think was a Tom Arnold movie.
No, that's Bill Murray. That's Bill Murray. Great movie, by the way. I think of that as a underrated classic, by the way.
Kind of the premise of this movie, Man Who Knew Too Little, where someone gets mistaken as a secret agent, and that's kind of the rest of the movie. In addition to this story arc, and this is the journey that Lightning McQueen goes on, but that he's embarrassed of Mater and everything that Mater's doing. He's kind of trying to hide him, and he's telling him to go back home, and he's apologizing for him. He's blaming him for ruining his right, which is all kind of true. Like all of this, like you said, he should have stayed home.
But the Man Who Knew Too Little adds in the torture scene, if you remember, by the way.
Who adds in the torture scene?
The Man Who Knew Too Little. If you remember, he gives Bill Murray the tickets to this thing because he has a business meeting, so he wants him away. And at some point, he gets mistaken. The brother gets mistaken for a spy and then tortured, whereas Bill Murray still doesn't know anything because he's the man who knew too little. So it'd be like if McQueen got tortured while Mater is just like bonking around or something.
There's also a phrase that they mentioned in Japan, which I thought was kind of interesting. And it's when they're introducing Tokyo as this race ground, and they say, "Oh, Japan, where the ancient tradition meets modern technology." And we were just talking about this on a previous show we recorded about Evangelion. Neon Genesis Evangelion. Shout out to Cartoon Cabal if you haven't been watching that already, if it's even out yet. But that this weird combination of ancient tradition and modern technology does seem somewhat unique to Japan. Like we don't have ancient tradition in the States, but we do have modern technology. But Japan seems like one of the only places on the planet that you could describe it that way, that they both observe ancient traditions, but they're also embracing modern technology more than anywhere else. So I don't know. I guess that's true. I mean, what's your take on it? You're the Japanese one out of the two of us, at least.
No, I've been here for, as I said, almost 20 years, and I still just maybe 2 weeks ago felt compelled to take a picture. I'll see if this comes through, but a picture like that. The tallest building. Okay, it's not going through, but it's a shrine, and then the tallest building in Japan is right behind it, like the super, like opened like a year ago. You know, because you just feel compelled to take those kinds of pictures in Japan, where it's like, okay, I could get something really old and something super modern, like in the same shot, like often.
And it was interesting too that in this movie, in Cars 2, when they go to Tokyo, still there's like no real noteworthy Japanese racer. They show them in the Grand Prix elsewhere, but it's all about Lightning McQueen and the French dude or the Italian dude.
I wonder if that's part of why I said I don't feel like they spent a lot of time in Tokyo, because they spent time in Tokyo, but they didn't have Japanese characters. Like there were no Japanese characters. I wonder if that actually factored into my feeling.
Right. We only see the two Japanese cars really when they move over to Europe and they're racing in Italy and they get into a wreck with each other. That's like the only time you really see anything represented like that.
So that might be it. Because the thing I warmed up to the most, like I said, was the car sumo. Because I thought that was a good joke. I wanted to see car sumo. So
I think that this movie could have been way more interesting if it was just like Tokyo Drift. You know, Cars 2
sure.
Tokyo Drift.
Hey, well, that obviously I'd find that appealing, wouldn't I? We spend very little time in Radiator Springs. I guess that's since Disney has doubled down on that being the attraction and stuff. It's Radiator Springs. You visit the town, right, at California Adventure, and then you take the ride through Radiator Springs, which ends in a race in Radiator Springs, I guess. I haven't been there. I don't know the details, but
I say compared to Tokyo, Radiator Springs is the most boring town that they could have ever placed any of these guys in. And even as I'm watching it, in all of the locations, when they go to Tokyo, when they go to Italy, when they go to Radiator Springs, there's all these houses. It's like, who the hell lives in these houses? Why does this house have even little tiny doors on it? Are we implying that the houses are leftover remnants from a previous human civilization? Because these cars have absolutely no use for it. And when they go to the airport, for example, the airport's been modified to have huge doors and huge walkways where these cars can all traverse, right? But there's still like little doors and stuff in the background that are human sized.
We are pushing the maximum overdrive theory a little farther. That's the turn. What we need is a in-between movie where we see the cars enslaving humans to modify all of this stuff, and then they eliminate them.
Yeah, I almost see them as like Venus flytraps, that once you enter inside the car, it uses some sort of enzymes to turn you into a goo, right? And then it uses you to kind of stitch, like, you know, your neurons together to make the car better.
Ooh, okay. Now there we go. That's plussing up that second movie or that interim movie.
Put me in charge, Lassiter. Come on, man. You saw what you did. It wasn't great. I can probably do slightly better.
And I think you have to make your plea to Iger these days. Last, I believe, is animating again somewhere else. You know, it's kind of like how Kevin Clash eventually. He's another one. It's always fun when you see the years active and it has a hole in there. I was just looking at Kevin Clash's wiki because Elmo came up a few days ago, right? Oh, I was talking about how I never liked Elmo because Elmo started on Sesame Street in '85, and I was 6 years old, and that's exactly the spot where Elmo would show up on Sesame Street, and I'm already starting to not watch Sesame Street, and then I'm like, then they got Elmo on there, and I think people my age in particular just really hate Elmo, but yeah, it was just like Kevin Clash, 1978 or whatever to 2012. 2018 to present. Army Hammer is a similar one where it's like, 2000 to 2023, 2024 to present. It's like they put in your wiki like the period of time you were canceled and then when you got uncanceled. Except the cancel culture is not real. So,
well, Elmo got canceled rightfully, right? So maybe you just
he's a rightful one, but Spacey's making movies in Europe, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if Spacey has a years active like that too. I bet he does. I just found that's an interesting thing, like the years that you have been disgraced, sometimes very rightfully. Kevin Spacey actually Kevin Clash. When I looked at his thing, it said he was never convicted or anything of molesting minors, and the statute of limitations has now passed. So.
I mean, Polanski still gets nominated for stuff, right?
Yeah. So
They're still signing waivers or, go changeme.org petitions or whatever on his behalf.
let's see years. I'm very curious what they say at years active. Okay, years active on Spacey. Spacey has never been not active because he was still making those "Let Me Be Frank" videos. So that's an interesting one, maybe because that's an A-list star. They can't do that. Where if it's a B-list star like Armie Hammer or a almost behind-the-scenes guy like Kevin Clash, you can do that.
Yeah, too big to fail.
Now this is a fun game. Now I have to see what they put years active on the cause. That could be interesting. Years active.
What years active is years you're not canceled?
Yes, Bill Cosby, who is not dead yet. I don't think he's in good health, but 1961 to 2014. Now, in his case, old age is also a factor there, but he also happened to get canceled right about then. And so,
yeah, but also you're talking about Ghost Dad, so he might actually keep going on even after he dies.
He's might be Ghost Dad and around.
Ghost Dad. Oh my God, they should totally come out with a Ghost Dad 2 right after Bill Cosby dies.
I do wonder, like, if people do sit down, crack open a DV set, and like binge watch the Cosby Show anymore. Because technically it's still a good sitcom, right? People liked it back in the day, at least. I Spy, that's supposed to be a good show, right? Can you watch I Spy?
I Spy.
Am I getting the title wrong? Cosby's first TV show?
No, I think you're right. That and then Picture Pages, wasn't it, with the little worm?
Oh, that's in between. Yes. But because I Spy is a weirdly forgotten show because that was like I think a pretty big one back in the day. Yeah, I Spy is right. In '65, that's earlier than I thought. Okay, crazy. So, I've never seen much of that show. Another spy show, though. I can always segue this back to Cars too somehow. Spies. I'm on Spies now. I'm doing good.
Is there a car afterlife?
Do they have souls? They let's see. They turned up the human race in the black goo with their Venus flytrap engines.
But like when one of these cars dies, it's just dead, or is there like a car heaven and a car hell? Is there a car like Nirvana?
There's eternal DMV if it's thinking about Pixar.
So this is like where you go. It's kind of like Beetlejuice. You go to the DMV.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how bureaucratic, obsessed Pixar seems to be under the surface. So it has to be some kind of bureaucracy in their cars. So DMV makes the most sense. Well, DMV of the damned.
The soul question is a fun one too, because then it gets into the whole Ship of Theseus thing. That if I replace Lightning McQueen's door, is it still Lightning McQueen? What if I replace both of his
Lightning McQueen's pineal gland?
Yeah, well, at what point does it stop being Lightning McQueen once I swap all the different parts out?
Carburetor.
That's like the pineal gland of a car is the carburetor.
Carburetor. You can't change if you end up with a golem if you change the carburetor.
Okay.
I'd be good in the writer's room.
Very decisive.
Yeah, I guess at the end of watching this movie, I found myself liking all of the cars less. All of them. Like the who voices the lady car. I can't even remember anyone's name after watching it. It's just for Mater, I'm looking at the wrong page. That's why. Let's see. Holly Shift. Oh, that's Emily Mortimer's voice. Yeah, a lot of the characters are just making a token appearance. Like the Luigi just shows up for a split second, right? The Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah, I mean, again, most of this movie is based around these new characters in a spy movie. It's a James Bond for babies, essentially.
Oh, yeah, Bonnie Hunt. There we go. Geez, Bonnie Hunt is 20th on the cast list of Cars 2. She's number 2 or 3 in the first one. So I guess she's just we have. I don't know what's up with that. I guess I just didn't.
Well, we barely even hear about her, let alone see her in the movie. It's because Lightning McQueen goes back to Radiator Springs and spends the whole day with Mater, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go have dinner with my girlfriend now," and that's pretty much the only appearance that we get.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's kind of like they contractually just had to go back to Radiator Springs because they'd sign these people for maybe 2-picture deals. So he's got to he literally has to have dinner with his girlfriend, right? Because Bonnie Hunt's got to do a scene.
There's a certain tone to this movie that feels like contractual obligation. Like you almost feel it come across in the story.
What does Laster say? I kept looking out thinking, what would Mater do in this situation while I was going around the world promoting the first film? I could imagine him driving around on the wrong side of the road in the UK, going around in big giant traffic circles in Paris, or on the Autobahn in Germany, dealing with the motor scooters in Italy. He just described the movie National Lampoon's European Vacation, by the way. Like almost literally.
Caught in a roundabout for 2 hours.
Hey kids, there's Big Ben again. Okay, he said a roundabout in Paris. The roundabout in European Vacation was also in England. And then he said that Mater would be confused by the road signs in Japan. Mater could also ride on the wrong side of the road in Japan. We drive on the left here. So I wonder how I drive in America now. That would be fascinating. I bet I'd crash, especially in Atlanta.
Also, you know what? There's something about an American writing team, like American creative team, writing about how obnoxious an American tourist is in another country. I almost feel like they should have had this written by, like Japanese writers and then have them write their take on an annoying American tourist, like fish out of water story.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of them because, especially Americans tend to watch mostly American movies. There's some British stuff. I've seen some Bollywood lately. I'm trying to think of where I've seen a good, annoying American. Japanese drama. So there's the morning drama, which is typically more like the family drama, right? And then there's the evening drama, which is more like the historical one. And what do they have? Sometimes they'll just find like anybody to do the American or European role. So they usually don't have that much charm. It was a big deal 10 years ago because they're going to have one of the leads of one of these shows was actually American. And I think she was mostly speaking English on the Japanese show. What's really fun in the Japanese shows is when there's a character on the drama that it's like this person knows English. They need to do the business deal because they know English. But the actor doesn't really know English. So when it's time for them to perform a scene in English, they're doing it really phonetically and like awkwardly and unnaturally. So that's looking at it from the other side of the coin, I guess. But they don't really show the American tourists in these cases. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're happy showing Japanese tourists. You know exactly what they're going to look like. They're going to have a camera.
They're going to drive up to you in a car and start doing Howard Cosell voices. That's what they're going to do. If you've seen Better Off Dead.
There was one part of this movie that stood out to me, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. And this is when Mater makes his way into the private jet, and he's kind of officially being initiated in a way of knowing that he's with spies. And they bring him into this like secret lair. And the first thing that the British, James Bond car does, what is it? His name is Flint. The first thing that he does is shows him all these different weapons. And he's like, you look a little light on, firepower, mate. And he like shows him all these different. And I was thinking, if anyone in this entire franchise has a gun or a rifle rack, it's got to be Mater, right? Like, there's no way Mater's not packing guns if this is a Disney universe in which the characters.
He's more into tractor tipping. I guess you can be into both.
He's got a rifle rack in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, no, that's why he's got his big chompers. He doesn't need a rifle rack. He's gonna eat whatever he needs. He can eat metal. He's matter eating lad from the Legion of Superheroes. If you want to get real comic book dorky.
So, but cars clearly are cannibals, right?
Cannibals. I know. My theory is they're eating humans.
But a car. Okay. Well, what is happening when a car siphons gasoline out of another car? Is that a blood transfusion?
Yes, that's a blood transfusion. That's not cannibalism. If I drink your blood, it's not cannibalism. I'm a vampire, or I'm doing a really lo-fi blood transfusion.
So gas is blood, not oil.
Gas is blood, not okay. Oil is
oil would have to be the blood, right?
Oil circular. Okay, so gas is food.
Yeah, gas.
But it's not the car. It's not the car itself, right? It's still, like
Correct. And the alcohol they drink is fuel additive
they're
because it goes into the digestive system, aka the gas tank.
there's the dream that you can run alcohol fueled cars, right? So don't make your own. You'll be dead in a week. But
see, that would also be a very fun character. They introduce the character that runs off alcohol and he's just constantly drunk.
Here's my car sequel. The humans are not dead. This is a time machine situation. We are in the far-flung future on the Pixar timeline. So the cars are the Eloi and the humans are the Morlocks, keeping everything running under the surface of the Earth.
The cars are just our avatars.
No, they're not even our avatars. They're the Eloi. If you know the time machine, the Eloi just are. In that case, the humans are eating the cars, though, because the Morlocks occasionally have to eat an Eloi or two, right?
It breaks down a little bit.
Yeah, it does break down a little bit. I'm just trying to sci-fi up the situation, though, see how that works out. But no, I guess for me, the one of the biggest things we're sitting here, I keep veering away, pun intended, for Cars 2. Because I can barely remember this movie and I just watched it last night, It just isn't sticking in my brain at all.
Well, again, I think it's because they departed from everything that really made Cars 1 good. And what you come away remembering the most in this one is pretty much all about Mater. They've developed Mater so much. And that's when I was talking before where I felt like, oh, this is the formula where they turn it into a video game. Because at the very end, Mater gets to hold on to these kind of like rockets, which kind of act as nitrous, for example. And as they're racing around town. Usually Lightning McQueen would be the one that would just beat everyone, right? Because he's the fastest car around. But now Mater can actually keep up with Lightning McQueen, even beat him in certain conditions. And I was feeling like this is for all the kids or all of the executives that want to sell the Mater toys, and no one's going to want to play with a Mater that can't even keep up with Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen's going to be but now if there's a version of Mater that can keep up with them, well, it's kind of Mario Kart. You got to make sure that all the different characters have something about them to make them worthy of racing Mario, right? So now this is Mater's moment where he gets elevated. He almost gets to get a taste of what the Ubermensch is in the world of Cars, where it's normally Lightning McQueen.
Pow, I want a Mater with him rocket strapped onto him. I don't want no Mater with no rocket not strapped onto him. I wrote this because the plot of the movie is that they're going to kill McQueen, right? But maybe Mater actually does this. I wrote the killing of the McQueen ritual. But maybe that's the thing. They foil the spy movie version of it, but Mater manages the pop culture version of it, because it's now Mater's franchise. He's top billed now. Larry the Cable Guy gets billed over Owen Wilson now.
Now I want to see a JFK version of Cars where it's they're
riding in humans.
Cadillac limousine, yeah.
Or you can put JFK and all in there, and then just have the car go, well, hey, vote for John. I guess it wasn't an election period, but
or you just make the limousine sound like JFK.
Oh yeah, sure. Or you put cars in the cars. That could be fun. Cars in cars. I did find it amusing that the airplane was just the cargo hold, but they installed TVs into the cargo hold. So. Do they install heaters into the cargo hold? Cars don't care about temperature, do they?
We have cars traveling in boats and in planes. So it almost feels like cars are the dominant species out of all these different, vehicles.
Well, we talked about how in the original Cars, we only see him a little bit in here, but how Lightning McQueen's truck kind of fills that role too. And that is a car or a truck, or maybe it's cars are above trucks. Trucks are also second-class citizens. Mater's a small truck. People don't like him that much.
Yeah, you could do like a turducken situation where Lightning McQueen gets inside the truck and then the truck gets inside a cargo plane.
Well, Planes is coming up soon. That is the spinoff from this. So
there's not enough of them. They need a spinoff in every direction.
2 plane movies. I'm sure they had boats on the mind. They make some boats. Let's see.
Disney's breaking new ground with boats coming this summer.
So looking, I'm going to see if there's anything else I really want to throw out of my notes. They got that quick into the wild thing where they're going off into nature, which is kind of a weird thing for a car thing to do, and it also takes all of 2 minutes, so it doesn't really go anywhere.
The one scene too where Mater eats the wasabi thinking it is pistachio. This reminded me of that scene in Big where Tom Hanks eats the shrimp cocktail thinking that I think it's like ketchup or something, and he ends up getting like a mouthful of horseradish too.
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
It's a trope now.
Horseradish, wasabi. It's maybe it's the way my sinuses are constructed. I mean, yeah, I can see the effect, but it just kind of rushes on through. It doesn't. It's not like drinking hot sauce. That'll intensify me more than wasabi. Wasabi, horseradish is in it, it's gone. I think.
Right. Well, it's not capsaicin, is it?
I guess not. Yeah. I guess that's a difference because that'll just stay in your mouth for the next.
That's
hour.
an oil, yeah, and that'll soak into whatever it touches, and it's there for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I'm lame. Actually, you can get hot sauces in Japan, but I'm usually just Tabasco in. So Tabasco on pizza. Do Americans do Tabasco on pizza?
Yeah.
Okay. I never did in America, but I do all the time in Japan. Just curious.
Yeah, I think hot sauce on pizza is pretty typical.
Honey?
Hot honey on pizza is typical.
Hot honey? Do you do Tabasco and honey? That was a conundrum I was.
Well, there's actually a special kind of honey. One brand name is Mike's Hot Honey, I think, and it's basically chili pepper infused honey.
Oh, okay. I didn't do that. I put on the honey, then I put on the Tabasco. So,
I mean, both work.
I guess it's the same thing, really. But like I said, the movie felt kind of long. I wanted it to end at the same time when it ended. I was like, what did anything actually really happen there? So do things happen in James Bond and Mission Impossible movies? And how is that different from here? A James Bond movie, I guess it is true that at the end of a James Bond movie, if you're meant to sit there and explain how the plot flows, you're kind of like, I don't know.
Well, in a James Bond movie, you get to see blood and nipples. And in this movie, you don't get to see either of those things.
Also, James Bond movies just do a much better job of laying down So James Bond, you see James Bond do something insane and impressive. And usually Tom Cruise, now Mission Impossible, they go on a little mission that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie usually. And this has that, but it's Michael Caine. It's not our regular Cars crew. So it does have a disconnect there where it is James Bond or Ethan Hunt in those other movies, right?
Well, and again, this one we got Bill Murray in The Man Who Knew Too Little as opposed to a Jason Bourne or a James Bond.
Right. So we have to have the fish out of water. That's how we're getting the jokes. I get that. I'm just kind of thinking that this is a flawed concept from the start, I guess is where I'm going. Yeah. So then an important scene we get is explaining the mission to James Bond or Ethan Hunt receiving his message that's about to self-destruct, right? We get the exposition there. Here we get a stranger showing up, so we have to world build and set the stage for Lightning McQueen and Mater and everyone and explain what's going on and all that. So by the time we get through all of that, nothing really stuck, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right, yeah, they have so many, they've got like 4 different subplots going on in this movie. So there's the McQueen is getting embarrassed by Mater, and you know that's going to have to be resolved at some point. Then you've got the MI6 CIA sort of like secret lemon society all working. That's its own little subplot. Then you've got the all in all versus ethanol, the whole like the green movement versus the fossil fuel movement. Then you have the race itself. All of these different things going on at the same time. So it almost felt like in the original Cars movie, there was only like 1 or 2 motifs that you had to keep track of. And this one, they got like 4 or 5 going on, but none of them are really high stakes. So none of them really feel that important. Like, for example, if all of this were to go according to the evil plan, all that would have happened is that people go back to using fossil fuels instead of alternative fuels, which is exactly what happens anyways. Even though they thwart the bad guys, at the end of the movie, it's just like, oh, well, what happened was this evil mastermind created a crappy version of alternative fuel and then turned his version of the alternative fuel into the boogeyman so that no one would want to use alternative fuel again. We're so glad that we thwarted his plan. Okay, let's go back to fossil fuels anyways.
Ooh, I never bought a Tesla, dodged a bullet there.
Literally.
Actually, I've never seen a Tesla on the road in Japan, by the way. They did not break into Japan at all. Just throwing that out there. That's interesting that they don't import. I mean, even in Tokyo, I don't spend a lot of time in Tokyo, but I don't.
There's got to be a Cybertruck somewhere in Tokyo.
That's what I'm saying, but I haven't seen one. So I haven't seen a regular line Tesla in Tokyo. But I'm not saying they're not there.
All over the place here.
That's what I'm hearing, and that people do see them in the States, but not here. But yeah, so but now people are like so anti-Musk that they're like, I don't want to drive a Tesla. So it's like, screw the electric car. That's, you know, I don't know how hybrids are doing these days.
See, that's also kind of funny. Like in this movie, Elon Musk is the bad guy, right? He's the one that was put in charge of the green electric car movement and then tanks it just so that no one will want to do the electric car green movement. So like Elon Musk is kind of that supervillain now.
Yeah. Is this predictive programming? Okay. But with The Man Who Knew Too Little, the key to that movie is that Bill Murray's character never knows about any of the spy crap going on. So there are no levels added all the way through the climax. He thinks he's just been given tickets to go do this weird theater, right?
And there's other movies that do this really well. Like, for example, maybe Naked Gun is cheating to bring that up as an example, but Leslie Nielsen almost never understands what's going on, yet remains like the ultimate.
But he's supposed
spy.
to be the authority figure, right?
He's supposed to be. Same thing with like Get Smart, right? But then also, like Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean, you can almost put into the same category, or even like a Mr. Magoo in a way.
Right.
All of them are these like unwitting heroes, and it still works out for them, and it's funny and it's done well. But again, Cars 2 has none of that kind of like on par humor with a Mr. Bean I mean, of course they're not gonna nail the same thing as Naked Gun because they don't have O.J. Simpson.
Here's a movie that does it well, but sticks to one location mostly, which is Men in Black, right? Because that's kind of like fish out of water with Will Smith's character, and you do have to do the world building, but it's a very non-epic movie. I mean, it has epic special effects and stuff, but it's all just it's a day in New York City, basically, right?
Well, and also Will Smith's allowed to be snarky in this movie. It almost seems like Pixar doesn't want either of the main protagonists to be snarky.
Right, and then they hired Owen Wilson. So at least in the first Cars, it was like, we want some snark. Well, they were doing Doc Hollywood, so Doc Hollywood's a little snarky. Lightning's a little snarkier in the first one. He's very milquetoast in here, so it's like, let's heighten the Mater, make him dumber, so he's more appealing to kids, and tone down the McQueen. Although, again, in 2025, the kids' water bottles have McQueen on. They do not have Mater on them. I don't think a little 5-year-old boy wants to have Mater on his water bottle, even if Mater is now faster
to make it look good.
I see tons of McQueen. I see very little Mater. So just throwing that out there
didn't work.
I see kids strolling. Yeah. But it seemed to work in the franchise that Mater is the star of the series, because I guess it's maybe easier to write for Mater. I mean, they got a ride for McQueen, and they have a ride for Mater, a California Adventure, I believe. So. But I don't like Mater, so I don't like Larry the Cable Guy. I think I don't know. I didn't like Jeff Foxworthy that much, so it's just rubbing on a strain of comedy that. In Cars 1, again, the Mater dose is just enough. Okay, they hired Larry the Cable Guy. That's fine. There's this little redneck truck in Radiator Springs. That's fine. But yeah, this is just like the fish out of water times 7 didn't appeal to me. Like I don't like
it so much you decided to just like move to Japan to get away from Larry the Cable Guy.
That's right. No, this movie came out when I was in Japan. See, last night was the first time I watched it. And when this came out, I was still of a mind to probably go see the new Pixar. Although Cars 2 was a stretch, but this is the point where it's like it's not in English in Japanese theaters. So I'll see it when it comes on DVD. And by the time Cars 2 came on DVD, I did not care. So Brave, I did see. Brave came out a year later. I saw Brave. I saw Inside Out, all that. But this one, just no. I didn't
Cars
care
2
about
is an
Cars 2.
example of a movie that I would want to see in Japanese without the English dub.
But maybe. I mean, what did I do? I've seen a few movies in Japanese with no English. But usually,
who do they get to voice like a Larry the Cable Guy if it's like the Japanese version? Do they put like a Southern twang on a Japanese accent, or does it just not like convert at all?
let me think. How would we approach a? They would go with a like an old farmer. I think they get like an Oji-san, a farm Oji-san to do Mater, because we do have the little white trucks in Japan. Now, Japan doesn't have rundown vehicles. That's a weird thing. It's very rare you see a rundown vehicle. So we have the little white farm trucks. And when one pulls out in front of you, especially if it has the sticker on the back, that means it's a driver over 80. You're like, oh crap, I'm about to get stuck behind.
But see, that's not
driving.
the same as a Larry the Cable Guy.
It's not. No. That's why I'm saying they'd have to. But they could have the bewildered old man doing that shtick. I think I'll have to go check what they did for Cars 2 in Japan, because now I'm curious how they treated me.
How do they do like a real thick redneck accent?
I think they would have had a farmer. It wouldn't be a redneck accent. It would be like a. Sorry, I can't do the Japanese, but there would be a kind of like heightened comedian voice of a dumb old man. I think that's probably what they did. But I'm saying that not knowing. So, because I'm thinking about Japanese television, which has panel shows. I think I brought this up before. There's TV stars who are not actors. They are not hosts. They're not presenters. They're just called TV talent. And there's a host to the show. And then the TV talent, there's 4 or 5 of them behind a panel. It's like a panel. They just do panels. And they're really famous, right? And they do heightened. All of them have dumb shticks, right? There's a few that are in drag. There's a few that have dumb catchphrases. There's a guy that would just show up in a Speedo, things like that, right? So, yeah, where am I going with this? I don't know. I'm just trying to work out how you Materize in Japan, because Mater doesn't work in Japan, but Cars is popular in Japan.
Yeah, well, I would just assume Cars too, since it's so heavy on Mater. I wonder, like, like if you watch the entire Cars 2 in Japan with the Japanese, voices, it feels like you're not getting that classic Larry the Cable Guy bumpkin feel. So you're probably even more confused coming out of that. Like, why did that guy get all this screen time? This old farmer dude.
No, they for sure had to do some serious retooling to make that work in Japan. But whatever they did, I assume it worked. So I'm actually just sitting here checking. It doesn't say what it made in Japan. I'm curious. It must have. I'm thinking about the pervasiveness of the merch in Japan. So the movies must have been successful here. But I'm wondering if 1 was actually a lot more successful in Japan. Maybe 2 not so much. I'm not sure. Although box office, again, you can, run the numbers so many ways. Who knows what it actually made and how much it actually cost, That's the fun of the box office game. Do you want to throw anything out at this? Wow, our recording hit all 11s when I said that. It's amazing. It feels important.
I want a Rockets franchise now. I want to skip all the cars and the boats and the planes and just go right to Rockets. We can go back to Paperclip all over again.
We could do that for sure. I'm not sure how you work that out, like as narratively though, but that's the challenge, isn't it? That's why you do it. I'm just checking if they're planning to go behind cars or boats. Planes, no boats. Planes, fire and rescue. Does Planes, Fire and Rescue do some boats? Note these are fire and rescue planes. Like the movie Always, I guess. Cars Tunes. That's hard to say. There was a TV show called Cars Tunes. No boats, no rockets look like they're in the mix for you. So cars on the road.
We've got a lot of different variety. We got jets, we got planes, cargo planes. You've got Humvees. There's missiles. There's machine guns. We've got a direct mention of the CIA. So that also means that in this Cars universe, there are private CIA jets that are flying cocaine across borders, right? Like Mena, Arkansas happens in Cars, I don't know, 2.5. Right.
There was a third planes that Laster was going to do, and then he got kicked out of the company. So that never happened. That's fine. Well, you know what?
So there's a Planes 2?
There's a Planes 2, but there's not a Planes 3. Yeah, we have to do 2 planes, I think. I don't remember if the second one was theatrical or not, though. We do. At least the first one showed it in some theaters, though. I think the Planes franchise was very much geared to video, but I think it did have some kind of theatrical run. Not like Cars 2, where they put in like every theater possible. You know, this might have been one of those like record-breaking number of theater sort of movies when it came out, too.
Now I'm thinking Cars Killdozer. That would be a fun one, too.
Ooh, yeah. Cars NATO. You always had a NATO. Cars Mato? Materno? Okay, now I'm just putting words
Mato.
Oh, okay. Here's the actual Mater model. I like better.
Or Mater would have been the name for that one.
Maybe that's how you would angle it in other countries when they can't do the redneck Mater thing. And I was thinking this at the end of the movie when Mater kind of unravels the whole conspiracy of the fuel stuff, right? Is Mater kind of like Columbo? Columbo's cooler than Mater easily because that's Columbo. He comes in and he seems like he doesn't know what's going on and he's frumpy and
maybe. But Columbo only seems uneducated to people that don't know him, but the viewer from episode 1, you know that Columbo is way smarter than he lets on, and Mater's not that. Mater's the opposite of that.
Yeah, he Mr. Magoo's into the solution. I guess that's
he's a Mr. Magoo more than anything.
Anyway, I guess I'm more of a fan of either Columbo model, where he's just he's taking the piss out of everyone, or again the man who knew too little model, where he never knows what's going on. You know. Mater knows too much. He knows too much. He needs to know too little, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. He should have never caught on that he was a spy, and maybe that would have helped it out a little bit. I don't know.
But then he couldn't get the gear to make him merch-able, you know? Merchandisable. That's a better word. Shall we drive this one back into the garage then?
Yeah, let's just drive it straight into a wall.
Okay, we do that too. We do some crash test dummying, you know, all that.
No, that was a cool franchise that never really picked up. They had cool toys. They had a cartoon show. They had video games. Whatever happened to those guys?
Yeah, I feel like I played a video game now that you mention it. Okay.
Yep. Huh. Yeah, and they weren't good. They weren't good video games. They were great toys though.
Yeah. I mean, I mostly just remember what the early '90s, late '80s commercials, of course. But
I feel like they went to the same level of hell as the Geico cavemen did. Like it was just too early or too late, but like the idea was there and it wasn't horribly executed, but just people hated it.
Who else? The Noid is there. Most Olympic mascots are there. The current we have the World Expo in Osaka right now, and that mascot is going straight to hell when the expo's over. Have a look at that guy. It looks like a Lovecraftian, like a cute Lovecraftian creature. That's the Osaka mascot for the World Expo.
Yeah, Spot. What wasn't his name? Spot from 7-Up. That was like a anthropomorphized character. For a little while.
He had he had a video game as well. Yep. What is the Osaka Mascot Expo's name? He has some horrible name as well. Myaku. He has 1, 2, 3. He has 5 eyes. Do you know what I'm talking about here?
I have no idea.
Okay, hold on. This is the world, meaning the World's Fair is currently happening in Osaka, and they have, and you've seen Olympic mascots before, right? They always suck. Although I do have little plushes of the 2020, which happened in 2021 Olympics mascots in Japan, but that's because they were on sale because nobody liked them. So I
didn't hate the Atlanta one.
Oh, I did. I hated the Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta, and I'm from Atlanta, and I know. I'm from Atlanta, and we all hated the Atlanta guy. Sorry, I don't seem to be able to put a photo into our chat, but just Osaka Expo mascot. You'll see this guy, and he's like the cute version of terrifying. I don't know. Now I'm staring at him where I like weirdly like him because he does look like someone's trying to make cute Lovecraft. That's the only way I can read. The old one, the ancient ones have come back and now they're kawaii, the old ones, whatever. Well, anyway, you deal with the old ones and some of your other stuff. Tell the folks about that.
I actually have a Lovecraftian adult comic called Illuminati, and that one's called Dinner with Demons. I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite stories that we ever put out. I also just got
you coloring booked that. I gave that as a gift once to a few people.
I actually do. No, I have a coloring book called Modern American Lovecraft, which is way more age appropriate for everybody else. That one's on Amazon. You can go to Amazon.com and search for Paranoid American. You'll find that one, along with a whole bunch of other coloring books, which for the weirdest reason are like my biggest sellers more than anything else I do. These coloring books sell more than anything. So yeah, go and check out Paranoid American coloring books, or just go to paranoidamerican.com and see all the other cool stuff that I got going on.
Adult coloring books, that's a real thing, right? Yeah, people like those.
Absolutely. No, it's actually a really hot genre right now.
Yeah. As for me, I'm not into really hot genres, I guess. I podcast about media over at Podcastio, podcastius.org. I'll leave it slim today. We are reigniting the Imprisoned in Prison feed soon. A couple years ago, we covered the 1967-8 show, The Prisoner, good for conspiracy heads. And we are now covering the much more modern series, Severance, starting soon, which also good for conspiracy heads. And a good show. So recommend those things. Hey, you know what we didn't have in this movie? They tried really hard to make another soundtrack that would kick, because they had their whole Life as a Highway thing with what Toby Scruggs, I don't remember what his name is, but yeah, they really hit one out of the park on the first one. This one they got Weezer in. Who else did they get? They got a whole bunch of people. I'm scrolling down the music. Weezer, Rick Osek from the Cars, Brad Paisley, Robbie Williams are in here, but nothing really hit with the music.
Yeah, nothing stood out to me, man. The first one was notable. This one, I can't even think back on any of the songs that stood out to me.
Okay. Actually, I am curious. We don't usually go out and do quality ratings here. Let's go 0 to 10. I'm curious where we actually would rate the Cars on our personal quality level.
Let's do both Cars for context.
Yeah, I want to talk about both Cars. So the first Cars, out of 0 to 10, what is your rating for the first Cars?
I'd give it a 7, shooting from the hip.
Okay, I do too. I was thinking 7. So I was curious because I felt like, oh, you like the movie more. I was like, we actually are about the same on that. How about Cars 2?
4.
Okay, I was thinking 3 or 4. So we are. I was just curious. Did I hate this movie more than you? Which maybe I'm just being more critical.
There were some entertaining moments in the movie where it was like, okay, this is kind of cool. It was a bunch of explosions and guns and rockets and stuff. So it wasn't boring. I mean, we've seen a lot of just straight up boring Disney movies, especially the ones that we haven't reviewed on this this podcast, but like the live action ones. There's a lot of boring movie. I mean, man, what was the one where they cut out the only cool part? That it was the live action where like the girl sees a freaking ferry like on a bridge.
Something Wicked This Way Comes. No, that was the carnival one. It's the one before that. Watcher in the Woods.
Here you go. Watcher in the Woods. I would give like a 3 or maybe even lower, especially if I never got to see that deleted scene. That one like adds a point in the back of my head. But the movie itself was just really boring. And this movie, Cars 2, even though it's a crap movie, it wasn't as boring. So yeah, 4.
There was the 200, some of that $200 million was at least on screen. All those oil rigs close together, the weird plane cargo hold, the car sumo, the racing scenes. There's always something to look at. Racing through cities. There's something to look at. So you
get like dopamine hits. It's just it's like no substance.
Okay. Just wanted to throw that out, but yeah, we are driving this into the wall, so here it goes. Oh damn, I made her dead.
And all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all the land and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
We're all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all the land and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags societies. All of these and more on our sticker sheets.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane paper, the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hate maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.